video is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
Beverly Young Nelson told a packed news conference in New York, of course that was organized by Gloria Allred, left-wing feminist lawyer, but Beverly Young Nelson is a Trump supporter and indeed describes herself as a Trump enthusiast, not a political person on the other side of the equation. And her account of all of this is quite disturbing, to say the least. She was 16. He was in a car with her. And at one point he started to attack her. And, in fact, she fought him off.
And then he finally gave up.
He finally gave up, and either she couldn't remember whether she fell out or he pushed her out of the car, and he sped away with the door still open.
But Roy Moore is adamant. He is doubling, tripling down and saying, look, this never happened. I don't know these people. And he says it's all politically motivated.
If you look at this situation, you'll see that because I'm 10 or 11 points ahead, this race being just 28 days off, that this is a political maneuver. It has nothing to do with reality. It's all about politics.
What are your thoughts on all of this at this point, where this has gone? Roy Moore has not just the establishment GOP against him. It's not just Mitch McConnell and people like Paul Ryan or Cory Gardner from Colorado. Now others have stepped up. Mike Lee of Utah and Ted Cruz have both decided to distance themselves from Roy Moore. And I think the Republicans see a time bomb ticking. Now, there are 2 points to be made here. Number one, and I made this last night on the Ingraham angle, people coming many, many years later, it's really hard to judge the veracity of something. It's 30, almost 40 years ago. It's hard. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, does there seem to be a pattern developing among women who were afraid to speak out because they were young? They were 14 in one case, 16 in another. Others are older, and they don't claim or allege attacks like this. A report in the New Yorker yesterday also indicated that Roy Moore, according to a number of people, was banned from the Gadsden Mall in Alabama because he was known allegedly to cruise the mall for teenagers, basically for kids.
Yeah, there are a number of interviews now, people saying, far back in the 80s and the 90s, they were warned about him and going to the mall. But again, he claims this is all politically motivated. But I will tell you, this second accuser, or now the fifth accuser, if you tally them all up, she has created a real firestorm. A number of senators have withdrawn their endorsement, everybody from Cornyn to Bill Cassidy to Mike Lee, even Ted Cruz. And that's all based on the second accuser because she does sound awfully credible.
Yeah, the description, I felt the way I felt about Juanita Broderick when I heard her comments. The way she told it, the way she expressed herself and about her story. Now, we don't know. This is a problem with this kind of crime, that the victim is often just afraid to speak out. Now, are there victims who make things up? Of course there are. But is this a pattern of behavior, and do the people of Alabama have to really think this through? And on the one hand, it seems like it's really well-timed, right before the election, to maximum damage to the Republican Party. The Washington Post initiated this reporting, then the New Yorker, and then Gloria Allred, and apparently there will be others. They hate Roy Moore for various reasons. There's a double standard involved. Look at when the stories about Menendez and started bubbling up in the media stratosphere. It was initially said that Menendez actually was with underage prostitutes in the Dominican Republic and went there to have sexual relations with them. And then that was kind of dropped out of the federal case. That was an allegation. Now, I don't remember the national media. I mean, they covered it, but it's not like this. It's not like this. Now, is that a double standard? Of course it's a double standard. Look at what they did. I brought on Juanita Broderick last night on Fox. And she said it's maybe the Clintons will finally get their comeuppance because now this is all coming out. And people didn't believe her at the time. Now more people are believing her. Will there be any hell to pay for the Clintons? They have hundreds of millions of dollars. What's going to happen to them now? I mean, they're at the end of their life.
Now, Roy Moore's wife has been coming out and apologizing for what's going on. Not apologizing, but saying it never happened, and he's one of the nicest men I've ever known. She is also circulating a couple of stories. This latest allegation, this lady came forward, Beverly Young Nelson, and she produced a yearbook that she claims Roy Moore signed when she was a teenager. Roy Moore's wife is now circulating stories. This is being reported by CNN and others on the ground. One, that the yearbook signature is a forgery, and two, falsely claiming that the restaurant where the alleged assault happened just opened recently. That's not true. That restaurant's been there a long time. But whether or not the signature is a forgery, who knows? This is Mrs. Moore.
I've been married to this man for 32 years. We've been together for 33 altogether. He has never one time lifted a finger to me. He is the most gentle, most kind man that I have ever known in my life.
Well, and she's saying it's a fake signature in the yearbook.
Yeah, Kayla Moore is
pointing to the date, 1977, that he was not DA in 1977. He was assistant district attorney in 1979, I believe. Yeah,
I think he was assistant throughout his career there. He never made district attorney, but but you never know. People always, I mean, there are people who fake their credentials all the time and who say things, particularly to young, impressionable people who don't know better. So who knows? I mean, who knows what he wrote in the yearbook, or if he wrote in the yearbook at all? The question really, and this entire question will be settled ultimately by the people of Alabama. Do you, people of Alabama, and I know a lot of you listen in Tuscaloosa, in Mobile, in Birmingham, do you feel that this story is credible, and does it change in any way your vote? Or is this just a hit job? And then we'll get into later what the Senate is talking about.
George Will has written a piece. Roy Moore is an embarrassment. Doug Jones deserves to win. As a second-year law student, he's talking about Doug Jones, who's the Democrat running up against Roy Moore. As a second-year law student, Jones cut classes to attend the 1977 trial of one of the church bombers, Robert Dynamite Bob Chambliss. In 2001 and 2002, as U.S. Attorney, Jones successfully prosecuted two other church bombers in the civil rights prosecutions.
He's also a massive supporter of abortion on demand, and is out of step with the people of Alabama in so many ways on the cultural issues, social issues.
Today, this son of a steelworker stands between Roy Moore and Elmer Gantry, mixing piety and cupidity. He and his family have done well financially, running a foundation, and the U.S. Senate seat vacated by Jeff Sessions. Moore campaigns almost entirely on social issues, transgender menace, NFL protests, and the wild liberalism of Jones, a law and order prosecutor and a deer and turkey hunter who says he has a safe full of guns. Jones's grandfathers were members of the mine workers and steel workers unions. Birmingham, surrounded by coal and iron ore, was Pittsburgh. It was a steel city, almost before Pittsburgh was. Jones hopes economic and health care issues matter more. So George Will is talking about the evangelical Christians who will support Moore no matter what these allegations amount to. And of course, someone like a George Will or a Mitch McConnell, truth be told, they find Roy Moore, even aside from these allegations, very icky. He's an icky person for the establishment, more genteel Republicans. He is a guy who campaigns on these social issues, and that's why he's kind of a folk hero in Alabama. He's also right now running a race that's really not a campaign. He's not really running a campaign. He has no money. There are no ads. There are a lot more signs in most neighborhoods, at least more well-to-do neighborhoods, for Doug Jones than there are for Roy Moore. So I think we have to look at this, and I tried to do this last night on Fox, and if you watched the Ingraham angle last night and you saw our discussion, I talked with Juanita Broderick and with Harmeet Dillon, who's a civil rights attorney, and she's an old pal of mine. She went to Dartmouth and UVA Law School. Brilliant young woman. She spoke at the Republican convention. She actually did one of the prayers at the convention. She's a Sikh American. She's an Indian from India. And she has seen a lot of these cases and is a litigator. And her reaction to that last woman was like my reaction. And I couldn't wait to hear what she said, because she said, I believe her. I believe her. I just think that there's something about her story that seems to ring true. And again, setting aside it's Roy Moore being accused, setting aside it's an important Senate race. If you just saw her yesterday tell her story, women or men, would you think she was lying or not? My antenna is not perfect, believe me. I've misjudged people in the past. But on these types of things, especially victims' statements, I don't know, I think a lot of women have really good radar about other women. I tend to believe her. That's my sense, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's my opinion. And no one who does that, I don't care if you're president of the United States like Bill Clinton did to Juanita Broderick, or a man running for Senate, you don't deserve to be in public office if, in fact, this is true. Now, we can't prove it. This is now a political question, and it's a political firestorm around it. We have big issues happening today on Capitol Hill. We have Jeff Sessions testifying. There's a possible special counsel in the offing to investigate the Uranium-1 and the Fusion GPS dossier, how Jim Comey handled the Hillary investigation. There's a lot of important stuff happening just on the law and order front right now, let alone on the tax reform issue. So we do have to keep our perspective here. This is a Senate seat. It's important. It's one Senate seat. You can't throw the whole Republican Party down the tubes to save one Senate seat. It might not be worth saving. I can't believe the words are coming out of my mouth, but it might not be worth saving. I'm looking at this as a pragmatic matter.
Well, and when we come back, we'll talk about the debate that's splitting the senatorial Republicans right down the middle.
Right now, there's a particular question. We'll tell you what it is when we return. Concerned about your blood pressure? Well, you should be. It's one of the keys to heart health and overall well-being. And if you're looking for a way to help support healthy blood pressure levels while living a pretty good lifestyle, here's great news. There's a super vegetable that's fantastic for your heart, beets. And Super Beets is a convenient way to get the benefits of beets every day. Super Beets provides a nutrient that helps support healthy blood pressure by working with the body's own natural systems. Only Super Beets is made from beets grown to exacting standards. Then they're concentrated into superfood crystals. So if you want to maintain healthy blood pressure, call 800-511-3640 or go to Laura, B-E-E-T-S, laurabeets.com. With your first order, you get another 30-day supply of Super Beets free, plus indicator strips to see how Super Beets is working for you, and free shipping. So call 800-511-3640 or go to laurabeets.com today.
I'm Jay Farner from Quicken Loan.
You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Jeff Sessions is likely to face some tough questions today on Russia and anyone in contact with WikiLeaks after Donnie Trump Jr. dumped out all his emails yesterday to WikiLeaks. I don't have anything to hide. Here, look at my emails. And we're going to try to get him on TV this week and see if we can chat with him. The president is wrapping up his tour to Asia, which was historic. Incredible trip in China, moving on to Vietnam and the Philippines. I personally wouldn't have been so close to Duterte, who himself is a total thug. So I don't know why we had to kind of sidle up to him. I mean, yeah, he's killing off ISIS in his country, the ISIS offshoot, Abu Sayyaf, which is the Philippines-based Muslim and radical terrorist group. However, Duterte is also systematically exterminating drug abusers. He's going around killing drug addicts. I mean, Cheryl Atkinson did an unbelievable report on this Sunday on her show. What is her show called? Oh, I always forget her show name.
Something.
All Sides or
no,
I don't know, but it's a good show. It's on Sunday morning. It's a great show. But she did a really interesting report about the Philippines leader and what he's doing when he cracks down on drugs. And so I guess the president asked him a little bit about human rights violations, but Chris in Arizona on line 3 is calling in about the interview with the 5th Roy Moore accuser, her statement yesterday with Gloria Allred. Chris, you were not convinced. Tell us.
Well, I didn't see any real tears coming out of her eyes. If you look back at Juanita Broderick when she was telling her story, welling up, tears everywhere, buckets of tears. This woman couldn't work a tear out of her eye to save her soul. I sell for a living, so I'm in the business of reading people, and I wasn't convinced. I wasn't convinced. I'm sorry. I didn't see a genuine tear come out of her eye.
Well, maybe she didn't have any tears left to cry. I can't judge on the basis of whether someone cries or not. Sometimes if I'm really upset, I don't cry. Maybe most people would. I don't know. And I don't. None of us know. That's the problem with these late hits. No one knows anything. But you look for a pattern. But again, this is a decision for the people of Alabama. In the Senate, there is a question about whether they will refuse to seat him if indeed he wins the election. That is splitting the Senate right now.
It's a country based on justice and on a person's innocent until proven guilty. And that stuff needs to sort itself out.
If he went to the Lord, whatever, and asked for forgiveness for that, and hasn't done anything like that, and since then, I believe that if the good Lord's forgiven him as a Christian, I have to forgive him.
Alabama voters sounding off on the Roy Moore controversy. Another accuser came forward yesterday. Beverly Young Nelson held a press conference in New York, again alleging that she was groped as a young girl at 14, and this is causing a firestorm all over Washington, D.C. What is it doing in Alabama? How might it change this race or not? We're joined by Steve Flowers. He's an Alabama political columnist, commentator, historian. Steve, thanks for being with us on the Laura Ingraham Show.
Thank you.
Now, what is the reaction? What are you hearing? Are those bites we played earlier, is that similar to what you're hearing on the ground, that Alabamans are saying, you know what, we hear this stuff, but we think it's politically motivated?
Well, you hear it from more supporters. Let me say this. Our polling indicates that Moore is not, the majority of Alabamians do not support Roy Moore. If you did a poll of the entire electorate, he has a 30% hardcore support and 70% do not like him. And so that is among Republican voters. But what happens in a special election, which happened in the Republican primary, was that Moore's people are older and more ardent and more dedicated to him, and they vote more heavily, and so they show up in a special election, which is in weird times. Mm-hmm. So having said that, his 30% are going to stay with him come hell or high water.
Yeah, it's interesting, and Steve, it's Laura Ingraham here. Our callers have been, I would say, 90% not convinced by the accusers. 90% of them think this is basically a political hit job because Moore is a social conservative. He's anti-establishment. He was not Mitch McConnell's preferred choice. And he is despised even more on the left because of his views on gay rights and gay marriage and transgenderism, et cetera, et cetera. And so they think this is a fight. This is a fight to the finish. And they're going to fight to the very end. That's what the It's the old rebel spirit, I think, in Alabama for the Roy Moore supporters, and they don't like to be lectured to by the North. They don't like being looked down to by people in New York or Washington, and that's where it is.
Laura, you have a lot of insight into that. When I mentioned earlier about the 30% hardcore Moore supporters, there may be a slippage of 10%, which I thought originally was an impregnable wall. Now, where you're seeing anti-Moore support is among upscale Republican-leaning young voters.
Oh, forget it. They're not going to vote for him.
No, they're not going to vote for him. And then the question was, in my mind, whether they were going to stay home, which they're probably going to do, or go vote for the Democrat, Doug Jones.
They'll stay home. Most of them will stay home.
That's where the more fertile area is.
Yeah, don't you think most people are going to stay home because, well, most of those middle voters who would have held their nose and voted for Roy Moore. I was in Vestavia Hills a couple weekends ago, Steve, because I was at the Alabama game, the Alabama LSU game. So I went down.
I knew you told me you were coming.
Yeah.
I was looking for you.
Oh, I know. I didn't make it to the quad, so I didn't get to do any fun parties, but. So anyway, I went to the game, but it was interesting because I noticed in Vestavia Hills, which is kind of a very affluent area of Birmingham, there were a lot of Doug Jones signs. I didn't see any Roy Moore signs. None. Like, I think I don't see one.
You hit the nail on the head. Yeah, you saw them. Vestavia is an upscale neighborhood, Mountain Brook and Crestline, Homewood. Yep. Those areas, you're very observant and astute to realize that voter, that 25 to 45-year-old upscale young professional voter, your suburban voter, voted for Luther Strange.
Yeah, they didn't like Roy Moore.
They don't like Roy Moore. They're not going to vote for him. But the question is, do they vote?
For
because
Doug,
they do lean Republican. They're more interested in making a mortgage payment or getting their child to the soccer game than who's our junior U.S. senator. That quite frankly, it's not an important issue. Their lives are full. 25 to 45-year-olds do not vote with the propensity of 75-year-olds. As you know, from following politics, that's a nationwide knowledgeable fact. And so the 75-year-old guy who goes to the First Baptist Church in Gardendale, he's more likely to vote than the African-American voter in North Birmingham. And so this turnout, this whole key revolves on turnout. Now, one thing in this thing, Laura, there's been more national attention to this race than on the local level. More supporters really have written off as political sabotage, but they know more than you think they do. They know it came from the Washington Post, and most people at coffee tables around here, upscale thinking Republicans, they assume it's coming from Mitch McConnell and not the Democratic Party, which is a real puzzling aspect, and that they're playing with a tentative Republican majority. And like you said earlier, you hit the nail on the head, is that Alabamians historically have resented outside influence in elections.
I don't blame them. I don't blame people. They don't want it to be their state to be run from Washington. They have an independent streak and an independent spirit. And the only question is there a way for the Secretary of State or the governor to put off the election, delay the election, reprint the ballots, and put somebody like a Gary Palmer or a Mo Brooks on the ballot, easy to remember names, and you really turn this thing around? Is that possible, or is that just DEFCON 1 or whatever?
No, that's not
the worst DEFCON. Which one is it, 4 or 1? I always forget.
It's too late, technically and legally, to change the ballot. Moore is going to be the Republican nominee on the ballot.
No, but you can delay the election. You can delay the election, Steve. That's what I understand. And again, they didn't write the rules.
The governor's not going to do that, though.
No, they're not going to do it again.
No, they're not going to do it again. Terry Latham, the chairman of the Republican Party, has taken a very strong approach that, look, we're going to have this election. These are allegations, and we're not going to be. Now, where will Alabamians will be angered, and you can tell me this, I don't know the legality of this. You're having some of this Mitch McConnell crowd saying they wouldn't seat him. Now, if Alabamians, even though it's a special election and only 20% of the people vote and vote for Moore, if he wins, And to not seat a Republican, I just can't comprehend that or how they could legally do that. Now, that's my question. The question here is, the election is going to be held. It's going to be held on December the 12th, which, again, is a really, really weird time to have an election. You're talking about those suburban
Christmas
upscale Republicans voting on December the 12th. Those soccer moms are still interested in their children getting to soccer, but they also got to shop for Christmas. So the likelihood of them showing up to vote is very unlikely. But the question is, McConnell was adamantly yesterday saying that he can't support and he doesn't want to seat more and this sort of thing. That sort of thing resonates with Alabama.
They don't like that. They don't like that. You know, and again, the people of Alabama, it's in their hands. You shouldn't have the heavies unless it's a legal question, and he has been adjudged legally liable. Then you could have a possible move to expel someone from the Senate. But there has to be in my view, for this not to look like an illegitimate power grab from the feds, it has to be a legal disposition against someone who they want to take action against, in my view. Now, I'm not an expert in the parliamentarian ways of Congress, but we're going to be looking into this issue very closely. And finally, I just want to ask you one more question, Steve. Doug Jones, you know, he hasn't had to defend himself at all. George Will wrote this glowing column about him today saying he's a son of a steel worker and he, you know, hunts turkey and he's, you know, he's basically painting him as kind of a middle of the road liberal for Alabama. What is the truth about Doug Jones and just how far out of the mainstream GOP his views are?
He is, I've known him since college. He is a yellow dog, a real true liberal Democrat. He's been an Obama delegate. He's been a Clinton delegate. He's never deviated. He proudly, and if you go to his website, you can see this, espouses the most liberal position on abortion, on immigration, on
Yikes. Terrible.
On every litmus test issue: abortion, immigration, transgenders, gays in the military, gay marriage. He espouses the exact national Democratic policy. He's never deviated from it. And what we'd be electing a senator that would be a liberal as the New York or California senator. I mean, this Doug Jones, a good guy. Comes across, he is a son of a steel worker. He's run an excellent campaign. And where Moore is being hurt is
there's no campaign.
He can't campaign and tell people who Jones is. Jones is running ads espousing himself as a middle-of-the-road, regular old guy who's son of a steel worker, and he comes across as a regular-looking guy, but the fact of the matter is the guy's a liberal, and especially liberal by Alabama standards.
Well, we're going to be in touch with you next week, Steve, following this. It's such an important inflection point for the country, and I think there's a lot of different conflicts and a lot of different strains and strands in this fact pattern. Late in the game accusers, Gloria Allred, and you got the Washington Post, and then you have the establishment GOP. And you got Roy Moore, the firebrand, going all the way back to the Supreme Court and the Ten Commandments statue he moved, and all they want it moved out. It says all these issues. He represents kind of the worst nightmare for the left. He is kind of a modern day. Would you call him like a modern day Strom Thurmond for Democrats? That's what they.
Well, yeah,
sort
I'd
of.
say I don't know what you would compare him to. But that outfit he wore the night before the primary doesn't help me either, with that cowboy hat and vest and little gun. They show that every night on Colbert,
Yep. I didn't get that. The only thing missing there was one of those little horses outside the supermarket where you put a quarter in, Steve, and you get the ride. I remember those little horses. I love that horse. My mother was like, "We can't afford the horse." Steve's coughing himself to death over there across the line. But those little horsies? Maybe we should send one over to him. Anyway, it's a tough deal. It's a tough deal. It's the last thing Alabama wanted or needed, I can tell you that. Steve Flowers, Alabama political columnist, commentator, historian. Steve, you take care. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot more to get to on the Laura Ingraham Show. And your calls on this, do you believe the accusers or not? Is this an orchestrated establishment hit job or not? I'll play you some of the best moments from last night's Ingraham angle. A couple of guests were incredibly interesting, including Harmeet Dillon and Juanita Broderick. But remember, Thanksgiving is just 1 week away, and a lot of people are worried, people are going to say, oh, you're tired. The worst is when someone says, oh, I'm sorry you're so tired. They do say that to me every now and then. But not as often, because I now have Genucel Eye Lift for brighter, tighter, and younger-looking eyes. And believe me, I need it. I don't get enough sleep, and you all know that. It's a sleep-deprived person like many of you. And others are also giving their testimony as to why Genucel has worked. And Mary in Fort Collins, Colorado, wrote to Genucel, and she said she tried the eye lift just on her right eye. I guess some people have one eye that's a little lower than the other. And the next day at work, she said everybody said her right eye looked better, and she couldn't believe it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Chamonix's best sale of the year just got better. Until Thanksgiving, you order the Genucel treatment for bags and puffiness and get the brand new Genucel eyelid lift absolutely free. And for results fast, the Genucel Immediate Effects is also free. All you need to do is go to Genucel.com. That's Genucel.com, or call them 800-480-5206. That's 800-480-5206.
Welcome back to the Laura Ingraham Show. Raymond Arroyo sitting in very briefly for Laura. She'll be back in a second. Steve in Indiana. You wanted to say what, Steve? Your reaction to what you're hearing out of Alabama and these more accusers.
Hi there. Thank you very much for taking my call. There were several things I think that are verifiable in the statement that the gal gave yesterday, the latest one that has a complaint. First of all, she showed a yearbook that shows him signing this, and he signs it with love. Ray Moore gives his title and also the location.
Right.
First of all, I think it's incredibly creepy that a 32-year-old guy who doesn't even know a girl at a restaurant would sign it love. I think that's very bizarre. But this woman said that she's a Trump voter. She said that she shared this story with 3 other family members over the course of the last 5 years. Also, the fact that the judge stated that he has no idea where this restaurant is or anything about it, which is hard to believe in a small town, and he's an elected official there. That's very hard to believe.
Well, the family, Roy Moore's family, is contending, his wife is on Facebook and other places, that it may have been fraudulent, that might not be his signature there. I've seen some who say, look, they're 2 different inks, and if you look at it in color, the photographer snapped the pictures, half of it is in black ink, but the last name, Moore, and the date and the location is written in blue ink. Now, maybe the accuser annotated it later to commemorate the time. Okay, 1977. And maybe he just signed, a more beautiful girl I couldn't imagine, wishing Merry Christmas to, love, Roy. And that's all he signed. And the more and everything subsequent was written later. But we don't know. It's so many years later. You're talking 40 years later. It is hard to discern. Terry, Florida, you say what?
I say that I find it very telling that this woman had to read every account of what happened that day, that she was choked and this. She read every single word from a piece of paper, okay? Now, if this would have happened to me, I could tell you exactly everything without looking at a piece of paper.
Terry, thank you for the comment. The Laura Ingraham Show continues in a moment. We'll continue on this Moore story and much more. Stay there.
Alabama voters are chiming in over the Roy Moore allegations. 855-40-LAURA. We have a lot more news to get to. Jeff Sessions just showing up on Capitol Hill. Highly anticipated testimony about his knowledge of Russian contacts with the Trump campaign, and perhaps other new details we're going to learn about that Justice Department investigation into Uranium One, and even the Clinton Foundation, which Jim Jordan and other congressmen have been rattling the cage on. They want answers here. And so we'll bring you that when the situation warrants. We'll keep you up to date on that. A lot of you are calling in about the late in the game allegations, which yesterday went even lower, if that's possible, against Roy Moore. And the allegations are that basically he had a problem with post-pubescent girls. And he, this new woman says he, basically tried to rape her, and she escaped from his car, and he kind of burned rubber in the parking lot. But he attacked her in the car, and she said stop, and he wouldn't. And finally, she was able to break free. She said when she got home, she had bruises on her neck because he began to restrain her. There you have it. And it's ugly. It's really, really ugly and really, really awful. Juanita Broderick now feels like she's getting some decent treatment from the press, because now in the Atlantic magazine, they're actually saying, that's kind of a liberal publication, they're actually saying now it's time to really confront what Bill Clinton might have done. And so Juanita Broderick, at the very end of my interview with her, and I had some audio problems last night, which is unfortunate, but that's just how it goes in live TV. It's kind of, it's live when we're like, well, we got gremlins in the audio system. But Juanita Broderick was on. She was the woman who accused Bill Clinton of raping her back in the late 1978, I believe. And I asked her about what the Clintons are they finally going to get what's due coming to them. Do you think, Juanita, after all this time, there will be any, whatever, there's not justice because, it's not a legal case, but there will be some type of comeuppance for the Clintons, or it's just a momentary thing here?
Oh, Laura, I hope so. I hope that they finally get what's due to them. I matter too. All victims matter. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. We all have the right to be believed.
All victims matter. All victims matter. All women, men, and she said whether you're gay or straight, if you're in any way abused in the workplace or in a public setting by an elder, someone who is an adult, male or female, that's really horrible stuff, and it's got to stop. And women, I think now are probably, I hope, going to be more willing to make these allegations in real time, make a complaint in real time. And I think what this accuser yesterday said was that Roy Moore said to her, if you say anything about this, no one's going to believe you. You're just a teenager. No one will believe you. And that's basically saying, you better not. You better not. That's what she claimed. Let's go to Joseph in New Jersey. A lot of people are calling in. Do you believe the accusers, or do you believe this is an establishment attempt to hijack a U.S. Senate seat? Joe.
Yeah, this is a more establishment bullcrap. The fact of the matter is that if Doug Jones wins, and I have the ugly sixth sense feeling he's going to win, these accusers are going to be dropped like hot potatoes, and then Doug Jones' victory, they're going to use that as a noose around Donald Trump's neck to say, see, even Donald Trump's country is rejecting Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
He needs to moderate and get off his, I really have the ugly feeling that that's what's going to go on.
And a lot of Republicans might be happy with that, right? A lot of the establishment Republicans didn't want Trump ever to be president, would rather have had Hillary Clinton president. This is what I wrote about in Billionaire at the Barricades. If you haven't gotten the book yet, get it. It really puts a frame around this current controversy in many ways, because you do see the old battle lines being drawn. And I'm not taking anything away from the accusers at all. I actually found the woman yesterday extremely believable. That's just my gut on her. I think she is telling the truth. Harmeet Dillon was on with me yesterday on Fox. And she's a civil rights attorney, co-chairwoman of Trump's campaign in California. I believe the Republican Party, in California, was a delegate for Trump, and actually said one of the evening prayers at the Republican National Convention.
I've had a few of my Republican friends say all of these 5 women accusing Judge Moore must be lying, etc. And the reason why women hesitate to come forward is exactly this Juanita Broderick situation. She gets dragged through the mud. Right. People don't believe you. It happened a long time ago. Why didn't you come forward at the time? It's common for victims to not come forward for years.
And she had seen this in litigation that she's done before, and I said, "That's not surprising, especially if you're 16. You just want that to go. You want that memory to go away. You want the whole encounter. You want it wiped from your memory bank, if possible." Let's go to Matt in Alabama on line 2. Matt.
Yes, good morning.
Go ahead, Manny.
Good morning there.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know a friend who had a mom who lived in Gadsden, Alabama after she graduated from college, and she was in a running club with Roy Moore. She was a pretty young lady, I've heard from many people, and she said he was the quietest, shyest man. Never heard of anyone who he ever hit on, never heard of ever hitting on anyone for that matter. This is all new news to her. She still lives in that city. She's never heard of this before, ever.
Interesting. They interviewed some people around that Gadsden Mall area, and they couldn't get the security office there to confirm that he was banned from the mall because, as one person said, he liked to cruise the mall for young teenagers. And the word was out, apparently, I shouldn't say apparently, allegedly, the word was out about him cruising the mall. And so the mall kind of had a all-points bulletin out for him. And basically he was not welcome at this particular mall. And I think this is another allegation that Roy Moore vehemently denies. Let me say, if all of this is false, it is a horrific, a lack of justice. Clearly, it's an injustice. If it's all false, it's just, coming forward with a lawyer and giving a statement, like other people have lied. That's true. People brought this up last night, and you had the Duke lacrosse rape case. You had the Rolling Stone story about that fraternity at UVA, which was false. You've had other false accusations on hate crimes that we think are horrible hate crimes, where they write graffiti on a church door. It turns out it's not who they thought it was, so it was kind of a hoax or an attempt to inflame an already difficult situation. So there are cases where people make stuff up. The question is all of this made up? Not all of it was a crime in Alabama. We have to remember that. People lose sight of this. If you're 17 and 18, even 16 was hard to believe. In Alabama in 1979, and I think even today, the age of consent, I believe, is still 16. And again, for us, we hear that like, what? It's lunacy. But maybe not for them. It wasn't. Let's go to Keith in Florida. Line 4. Welcome, Keith.
Hi, yeah. Before I get to my actual point, I want to point out that Allred tried to pull this on President Trump during the election, where she had someone who claimed he raped her. The woman backed out of it, and you would think that such a hard allegation, they would have pursued it and tried to find out if it was real, and they never did, because after he won. And the reason is because it wasn't about finding out the truth. It was about getting people to believe it. They didn't care whether it was true or not. After the election didn't matter. It was only before the election. But what I wanted to say about Roy...
Go ahead.
Yeah, what I wanted to say about Roy Moore is this is a really odd switch. Usually when you have a predator and they get away with these things, they're more emboldened, and they do it throughout their life. Bill Clinton, Ted Kennedy, Anthony Weiner. Sexual predators are the most repetitive people in the prison system. And for Roy Moore to all of a sudden, like, a switch flipped, and now he's no longer a sexual predator for 40-something years, to me seems rather odd. And when I was listening to this woman's story, I was thinking, oh, my God, this sounds just like Juanita Broderick. If you listen to everything Juanita Broderick said, it sounds to me like this woman lifted things from Juanita Broderick's story, and then instead of it happening in a hotel room, it happened in a car. Everything about the Attorney General, Juanita Broderick said that's why she didn't come forward at first. A number of different things just seemed so similar to me. I don't think that on the face of it, to me, it's not believable.
All right, let's go to Steve in Tennessee on line 2. I want to hear from women, too, on this. I don't want to just hear from men because, again, there are a lot of different elements to these allegations, and there is politics involved. Do not think for a moment that politics isn't a big, big part of this. And I'm not focusing on the accusers. I'm thinking about the reaction to the accusers. There are people who want to make a lot of political hay of this for their own personal agendas. I'd like to know the facts, understanding that you can't know the facts 38 years later. It's impossible pretty much to know the facts unless Roy Moore comes forward and says, I'll take a lie detector test. And, you know, maybe that's what he has to do, take a lie detector test. And so do all the women. Would that solve it? Well, maybe. Make it more likely that someone's telling the truth or not, I suppose. I'm not an expert in lie detector tests. Steve, go ahead, my friend. Sorry for the long-winded intro to you. Go ahead.
This is nothing but a blatant attempt by the establishment to hijack, like you said, a Senate seat. I tell you what, maybe Judge Moore ought to go on Dr. Phil. That might clear it up.
I'd love Dr. Phil to do this. That's a good idea. Let's go to Ray in Arizona on line 1. Ray, welcome.
Hello, Laura. Hey, you're not going to find out the truth whether Moore did it or didn't do it, especially before the election. But you definitely do see that the same bunch of senators are the same bunch that didn't do anything about the Obamacare, didn't do anything about anything of the problems at Clinton's. And, every time this bunch of senators get up there, I'm starting to feel like you might as well just go the opposite direction. These guys are the ones that are hurting the case more than anything. I wouldn't have those guys on my side no matter what. Well, and there also are, I think, plenty of never Trumpers who didn't like Trump, who are also kind of among the first to be urging Roy Moore to step aside. But again, that's even a confused analysis because Donald Trump didn't support Roy Moore. He supported Luther Strange. And so should the president of the United States come out and say something about this? I think that would be I think that's in and of itself fraught with difficulty and problems. Then a mere allegation against someone or allegations with no ability to legally prove or disprove the underlying allegation is enough to take him out or her out. That's it. You really do have to ask who would want to be involved in politics if that's the standard today. All right, we're running long on this. We want to get to all your calls, and we will. 855-40-LAURA. More on this, and Jeff Sessions testifying right now on Capitol Hill. We'll bring it to you. I know you purchased a timeshare, and there was a time where you loved it. Then you didn't. You've learned the contracts are perpetual. The fees constantly go up, and you can't get the dates or destinations you want. You've tried getting out of that crooked contract with no luck. Well, I've done my research, and I want you to call my friends at Resort Release. ResortRelease.com helps timeshare owners legally terminate their contracts and end all future payments, guaranteed. They've even earned an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Go to ResortRelease.com or call them at 855-66-LAURA. Resort Release gives every customer a 100% guarantee that lets you legally and permanently walk away. If you don't get out of the contract, you don't pay a dime, period. 2018's maintenance fees are due any day now, so get out now before you have to pay again. Visit ResortRelease.com or call them at 855-66-LAURA to see if you qualify. That's 855-66-LAURA. Call my friends at ResortRelease.com today. Call them at 855-66-LAURA to see if you qualify. You've heard me talk this past year about how much MyPillow has helped me have a better night's sleep. Oh, I tossed and turned all night, and I never felt fully rested, but that changed once I discovered MyPillow. It's the holiday season. There's no better time than to buy a MyPillow for yourself or your friends and family. They make a great holiday gift, a great hostess gift, a great gift, period. And it's not only pillows that they make. They have incredible sheets, and they even have dog beds that pets love. And, of course, it's all manufactured right here in the United States and comes with a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry MyPillow, and the best part is you get a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. Go to MyPillow.com or call them at 800-385-5164 and use the promo code LAURA to take advantage of my special buy one, get one free savings. It's the holiday season. There's no better time than to buy a MyPillow for yourself or your friends and family. So again, go to MyPillow.com or call 800-385-5164 and use the promo code LAURA to take advantage of the buy one, get one free savings. I've never heard of this person, but I'm told Evan Siegfried is a Republican
Republican strategist. God, I usually know the Republican strategist, but I don't know. He's very animated. But he's basically someone who believes it's time for the Republican Party to be righted. He writes and has written for the Daily Beast and the Washington Post, and he's a political commentator and a millennial expert. That's what it says on his official site. He's a millennial expert. Let's go to Brent in Alabama on line 2. Brent, welcome.
Hello.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, I just wanted to say that being someone from the state that this mess is going on in, I mean, this is getting old. This is the same stuff that went on with Herman Cain, with Donald Trump. I mean, this man needs his day in court. You know, let the voters of Alabama decide, you know, just like we were going to decide before this all came out. And
let the voters decide. I mean, it isn't a national question unless the national party makes it one. Then it becomes a national question, because then all the Senate candidates in 2018 are going to be grilled on Roy Moore. And they believe, the left believes, this will be a great battering ram to be using in key Senate races where women voters are really important. Women voters don't like this. And some women voters just don't believe the accusers, and I understand that. But I think the Republican Party is thinking big picture here. And, you know, I don't agree with a lot of the tactics of this Republican Party, as everybody knows. I'm just analyzing this for you. I appreciate it, Brent. Let's go to Glow in Alabama on line 3. Glow.
Yes, I'm a Roy Moore supporter, and I feel like it's very important that we get out to the polls and vote for him to fill the Senate seat. I think if it took 30 to 40 years for these women to come out and cry against him, I really don't believe them. My heart goes out to him, but I don't believe that Roy Moore is guilty of these things. So I think I'm going to tell the people, go out and vote for Roy Moore.
All right. All right, Glow. Is that short for Gloria?
No, it's just Glow, G-L-O.
I love that. Glow. I like your name. I like your accent. I'm getting all my fix of my different Alabama accents from northern Alabama, southern Alabama, and anywhere in between. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. Matt Rosendale is going to be in studio. 2018 is right around the corner, and that means come January 1st, your car is going to be another year older. So will you be. I'm just getting younger. Just kidding. You look great. I know you do. But sometimes your car, especially if it's out of your manufacturer's warranty, that's when the stuff goes wrong. It's a nightmare. It's happened to me. I know it's happened to you. You don't need to be saddled with hundreds and even thousands of dollars of bills. You can become a member of CarShield. CarShield.com. That's where you go to sign up. And they even have plans there, by the way, that cover your car's computer, GPS, electronics, and a lot more. So look, if your car is between 3 and 12 years old, check it out. And you can get your favorite mechanic or dealership to get paid directly, so you're not the one getting the bills. And you sign up today and you get a special bonus, 24/7 roadside and a rental while yours is in the shop. Just call 800-CAR-6100. Extended vehicle service protection from CarShield. A deductible may apply. Back on the Laura Ingraham Show, we're thinking of 2018 and what might be coming down the road as far as Senate races and challenges to Republican incumbents, Democrat incumbents. Everyone was focused on the races in Virginia and New Jersey, the off-year gubernatorial races. And, of course, a lot of people now focused on the special election in Alabama. I'm going to get to your calls on that. But it's never too late to look ahead to some of the big primaries that are going to be capturing the nation's attention, including the one on the Republican side for Jon Tester's seat. Jon Tester is, often described as a conservative Democrat, yet on issue after issue, he just voted with the Democrats, whether it's on Obamacare or stimulus or other issues like that. But Montanans are an independent and very practical people. And they're going to be looking at this race closely. And joining us now is Matt Rosendale. He's running for that Senate seat in the GOP primary. The primary is not till June 5th. Can you believe it? He's a rancher and a businessman, son and brother to U.S. Marines. And he was elected by his colleagues as Montana's state Senate Majority Leader in 2014. And he was also elected as Montana's insurance commissioner And I'm just delighted he's in the studio. He's endorsed by the Great American PAC and also by Steve Bannon in this primary already. So you're getting an early start. Good to see you, sir. How's it going?
It is going fabulous. I really can't tell you how appreciative I am to be in here with you this
You have
morning.
John Tester's haircut, I've decided. You all get that Marine-style haircut.
I would like to think I carried it off just a little bit better, Laura.
You're a little thinner than he is. I got to ask you about Roy Moore, because next year you're going to be asked about this, regardless of what happens in this race, whether he wins and is seated or not. This question of sexual harassment, treatment of women, and the Republican Party, on the verge of at least of electing someone who's accused of all of these things. What is your response?
My first response is there are accusations right now, and we are a country of laws, and let's let the legal system work out and see where this lands. Are the courts going to show that the laws were violated? If they were, then people need to be prosecuted. If we go through the system and find out that they weren't, then people should not be held for accountable for something that they did not do. I mean, that's how our nation is supposed to work.
Do you think there's been a rush to judgment in this case?
Oh, absolutely. Again, until someone has been proven a criminal, that they committed a crime, I think that right now it's just the political atmosphere has set itself up to make him a very attractive target for many, many people.
Did you feel the same way when Bill Clinton was accused all those years later by Juanita Broderick and Paula Jones and Kathleen Willey? And all, I mean, they weren't. He wasn't convicted of sexual misconduct. He was impeached, but that was for lying under oath. Republicans wanted his scalp back then. So did you withhold judgment in his case as well?
I would like to think that I did. I mean, everyone, regardless of how much they try to say that they are impartial, they have prejudices. I mean, we are going to have prejudices, but I do my very best to withhold any judgment until people have been able to utilize the legal process that we have available to them.
The Obamacare issue is important to Montanans.
It's enormous.
And it was a big factor in this Virginia election last week, a huge factor, listed as one of the most important issues. Do Montanans just want this to be done away with and repealed, or do they want some type of softer landing?
No, they want it repealed. For every person that received a benefit from Obamacare in Montana, I will tell you that 7 others had their health care costs increased dramatically, not just a little bit. And we have people right now that are purchasing insurance products, and they're investing $20,000 to $40,000 a year. I talk to them literally every single week, and yet they have no realization or expectation to receive a benefit from that insurance. It's almost like false advertising. So they're paying exorbitant premiums. They have these tremendous deductibles. Their total investment through the course of the year is $20,000 to $40,000, and it's really just a just-in-case policy. And so I have tried to focus on making sure that many other options are available to folks so that they can accommodate their health care needs in a way that recognizes their budget, their personal health care needs, and their personal choices. We have personal choices that are involved with this as well.
We're talking to Matt Rosendale, who is a Republican primary candidate for John Tester's Senate seat. It would be a Republican pickup if indeed the GOP can win that seat. The most important issue in my mind right now in the Republican Party is showing that they can govern the country, showing that they can actually get things done on the Trump agenda. Tax cuts, real tax cuts were part of that. Obamacare they couldn't pull off. Done very little in the way of big legislative achievements. In your mind, what is the most important thing that the GOP needs to do if it's going to be in a position to pick up a Montana Senate seat?
Well, I personally felt that it was the repeal of Obamacare. Recognizing...
Okay, that's gone. They didn't repeal it.
Exactly.
Maybe they'll figure it out now, but...
Exactly. So now they have to drop back and punt and make sure that they do push something through on tax reform. But it has to be real tax reform. We have to provide relief to people. If you're not providing relief for people, then you really haven't provided tax reform. We have to simplify the system, and we have to show the general public that there's a decrease in revenue that's being collected. If you don't do that, then you have not reduced taxation.
We're talking to Matt Rosendale here on the Laura Ingraham Show. We have a lot of people on the line. Montana is known as, I mean, in my mind and heart, is one of the most, it's just a spectacularly beautiful state. It's huge. It's a massive state.
You want to try campaigning across
it. Oh, no. It's a massive state, and if you've never had the chance to go, I would say please try to find the time to do it. James, this would be a good road trip for your family, by the way.
That sounds like a great idea.
You would love it, James. It is so beautiful. You get in a car. I'll rent your vehicle for you. I'll rent your vehicle. Get a little RV. I'll send you this summer. Okay, that's my birthday present to you.
Let's do it. Yeah. I've seen more vehicles today.
Of course, I'm going to come. You're going to see me with my red floppy hat and my sunglasses. Hi, James. I just thought I'd join you for some of your vacation.
Now you've already committed to come.
New Jersey boy is going to love Montana.
You've already committed to come. So I've got that on air, on the recording that you committed to come to Montana.
I haven't been in a couple of years. I usually go to Flathead Lake and up to Kalispell, that area. And I don't know Bozeman. I don't know incredibly beautiful parts of Montana at all. And I have so many friends that live there full time now or have moved there, and it's breathtakingly beautiful. It really is. It's to be someone running for office from that state and then coming here to Washington D.C. with the traffic, with the congestion, with the bureaucracy. I mean, I don't think they know how to deal with people like you. I really don't. I think you come here to Washington, they're like, oh yeah, cowboy rancher type. You don't know what the heck you're doing. And in fact, you probably can fix things with your hands. You probably can. If something goes down, you could probably be there and defend your family and get it done. And that's what in my view, that's what the great West and the great outdoors usually brings us with good Americans.
35% of our state is federal public lands.
Wow.
Okay, so you talk about these folks up here don't understand it. That is exactly right. So please don't visit us in July or August because that's fire season and you won't be able to see our beautiful grandeur because it is so choked with smoke because the forest land has been so mismanaged by the federal government that once these fires begin, there's so much fuel that they continue to burn.
So you should have done controlled burns and
logging.
Logging.
What do you think? Maybe we should take some of that timber out of the forest and be able to utilize it for constructing homes. Dwight Eisenhower said that you can't put a man in charge of agriculture that uses a pencil for a plow and lives 1,000 miles away from a cornfield. And that's what we have right now taking place.
What do you make of the Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan leadership of the Republican Party? On the one hand, Mitch McConnell has done, I think, a great job on the judges issue. I mean, we still have a lot of confirmations that need to be done, but he held that seat open on the Supreme Court so Gorsuch could slide in there, which was critical. I don't know who else would have done that, frankly. And he really did that.
He did. And I'll tell you something. If you look at
he gets a lot of CRAP from people.
Yeah.
But, you know.
That was a tough deal. And if you talk to the people around this nation, one of the most important issues to them in electing Donald Trump was to make sure that he was able to appoint the next Supreme Court justices. So that was the very big part. I mean, we still have expansion of the economy, we still have preservation of our culture, and we still have protection of our nation that are the other three big, as far as I'm concerned, issues that he's trying to pursue and agenda items that he's trying to pursue, and everything else circulates around them.
Matt Rosendale, thank you for coming by the studio. You know, you didn't bring us any Montana treats, though. You brought my book, which I'm going to sign. You'll love the book.
I just finished it.
Oh, you just finished it?
I just finished
Isn't it? It's a wild ride.
I love it. Look, we came of age about the same time.
I'm much younger than you, but okay.
I said about.
Just pretend I'm a lot younger than you. Okay, just give me a break. It's one of those days. I'm really tired. It's one of those days. But no, we really appreciate you stopping by. We're going to be following this race very closely, and I think we are going to show up there in Montana next summer, so we'll have to show us around a little.
I will do that. I promise you.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. And we'll link up your website on lauraingraham.com and on Facebook. Learn more about Rosendale's campaign. And people think it's too early to talk about these races. No, it is not. You should get to know these candidates, each and every one of them. And it's important. Every seat counts. Alabama is not the only state that's going to be, either winning or losing in the Republican column. And could be an important pickup for Montana. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. Follow Matt Rosendale by going to our Facebook page. And Laura, this holiday season, don't.
I will not accept and reject accusations that I have ever lied. That is a lie. I have at all times conducted myself honorably and in a manner consistent with the high standards and responsibilities of the office of Attorney General, which I revere. My story has never changed. I've always told the truth, and I've answered every question to the best of my recollection, and I will continue to do so today.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions on Capitol Hill just moments ago defending his honor, defending his word, when questioned about whether he had interaction with Russians or any collusion with Russia via surrogates. He said he rejects all accusations that he's ever lied, and he continues to be grilled on the House side. We will, the Judiciary Committee today having a hearing, and the Attorney General still testifying. We'll continue to follow that for you. Meanwhile, every line lit up. You still want to talk about Roy Moore on the Laura Ingraham Show. Brenda in Texas, you think what about Moore as well as these allegations?
Well, let me get this straight. I just did a quick Google search.
Okay.
Roy Moore graduated from West Point in '69, which not many people do. He served honorably in Vietnam as an MP till '74.
Right.
Then he graduated from law school by '77. He lost his job because of his Christian values, came first. He's been married to the same woman for over 30 years. But in the 8 years in between all that, I'm supposed to believe he was a serial rapist and pedophile. No, what I think is that this is the best way to turn a red state blue, is to accuse the Republican of being a pedophile. I mean, that's way worse than a racist, sexist, and xenophobe. So they can split the Republican vote in Alabama, and there you go.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to John. Thank you for the call, Brenda. Let's go to John, also in Texas. What do you think of these allegations?
Of course, it's a political hit job. Where have these women been for the last 30 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's clear that we have these women coming forward now.
Silent.
The question is why.
Yeah, they've been silent, and from these victims' lawyers and these civil rights lawyers, they say that's not surprising. That's not surprising for women to be silent, but the timing of it is, you can't ignore the timing. You just cannot ignore the timing of this.
We have another call, Kathleen in Ohio. Do you believe any of this?
No, I don't. And I want people to remember what happened in Mississippi with Chris McDaniels and Mitch McConnell. This is a battle between McConnell and Bannon. If he can take this away, then the swamp is on the move. I absolutely don't believe it. I have read about Roy Moore's life. There's no way that this is true. We're not stupid out here in the heartland. We read and hear a lot of different things, and this is just the swamp trying to get another establishment person. And even if it's a Democrat, they would rather have that. And frankly, I am disgusted with the so-called conservatives that are coming out and withdrawing their support. When the accusations came out about Ted Cruz and the Inquirer, I didn't withdraw my support. I knew it was a hit job. Yeah,
and you didn't withdraw your support. And my view is the people of Alabama have a right to determine their own election. And it's not for me to say people are telling the truth or not telling the truth. 40 years later, it just doesn't have any ability to be proved. You can't prove it. So they're horrible facts that then become the narrative. And that's also not fair. But the allegations are disturbing.
We're going to stay on the Jeff Sessions hearing as well as this Roy Moore story as it develops.
We come